I'm Pickle the Satyr. Do you know what a satyr is? It's a goat boy. Imagine your story at the Tulsa City County Library.
Imagine your story at the Tulsa City County Library.
You're a pirate. Have you walked someone off the plank?
Nay, lad, I'd never do anything like that. And just between you and me, that's something they only did in the movies. I'm Tired Tim the Pirate. I tell stories about the female pirates. Have you ever heard of a female pirate?
No.
There were a few females that were just as ruthless as all the male pirates. Well, the lady I'm going to tell you about now was a lady named Jeanne de Cleason. She got into piracy for one reason and one reason only: revenge. And during the 14th century, Brittany was a small independent country. And when the Duke of Brittany died, it left Brittany in a turmoil. You see, there were two branches of his family. One, called the Dubois, were allied with the French, and one who claimed that they were the heirs of the Duke of Brittany were named the Montforts, and they were allied with the King of England. Man, Oliver de Cleason was a friend of the Dubois, so when they went to war, Oliver de Cleason sided with his friend Dubois, and hence he sided with the French. The French king, Philip VI, decided that de Cleason had betrayed them, and word went out that de Cleason was a traitor. Then the King of France called him in one day and says, "Nah, it was all a big misunderstanding. We'll have a big banquet and we'll tell everybody that you weren't a traitor." De Cleason went to meet with the King of France, but the King of France had him arrested and hanged as a traitor. Well, his wife, Jeanne, wasn't very happy about that. She took her two young sons. She sold all of her lands, and she hired a private army of mercenaries, and they set out to get their revenge on the French. The first thing she did was she took her army and they sacked a couple of French castles. Then she took all that she had taken from those castles and she sold it, and she went to England and she bought 3 ships, and she set out for a life of piracy. Now, most pirates, they don't want people to know who they are. Jeanne de Cleason advertised who she was. She painted her 3 ships black. She painted her sails red and dubbed it the Black Fleet. She took her flagship, that was her biggest one, and she gave it a name. It was called My Revenge. For the next 13 years, she would raid the French any place she could find them. A French ship was flying, a French flag, she would raid it, she would raid French villages, and every time she left one person alive with the same message: go back to the French king, tell him who done it and why they done it. Well, during the midst of all this, England was fighting France in what they call the 100 Years' War. The King of England was Edward III. He was set out to conquer France and use any excuse he could get for it. He gave her a commission as a privateer. They had a legal authorization from a king to do their piracy. She also used her ships to ferry the men and supplies of Edward III's armies back and forth from England to France. When it was all said and done, the Montforts, who were aligned with England, had won that war, and they were established as the new Duke of Brittany, and would remain the Dukes of Brittany as long as Brittany stayed an independent country. But when they signed the treaty, it was interesting. You would think that the principal parties would be the ones signing the treaty: the Dubois, the Montforts, Edward III of England, and Philip VI of France, where there was a 5th person involved with the signing of the treaty. You see, Jeanne de Cleason played such a big role that her name itself was added to the treaty, that she was no longer at war with France. And that's how one woman actually helped change the course of history. Thank you for listening. Come, hear tales of piracy at the King's Medieval Fair in Glenpool, Oklahoma. Arr.
I'm Pickle the Satyr, and I'll see you next time.